1972. The year one company made a quiet decision in Penang. RM382, 900, 000,000. What that decision produced in 5 months of 2026. One company. One decision. $1.6 million invested in a small facility on a Malaysian island that Silicon Valley had never heard of and was not paying attention to. 54 years later, that decision has produced RM382.9 billion in exports in the first 5 months of 2026 alone. A 39.7% increase year on year. Nearly half of everything Malaysia sold to the world in that period. From one industry. And the full year number is going to be bigger. The president of the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association told Bloomberg Television in June 2026 that full-year exports could exceed RM800 billion, nearly $200 billion. From an island in Penang where a quiet decision was made in 1972. This is that story. Welcome to Shifted Perspective. This channel tracks what is actually happening before the mainstream figures it out. Subscribe right now so you never miss what we uncover. Hit like if that number, RM382 billion in 5 months, already changed how you see Malaysia's economy. Drop one word in the comments, surprised or knew it. Tell me whether this story was already on your radar. Let us get into it. In 1972, Intel was 5 years old. It had just produced the world's first commercially available microprocessor, the Intel 4004. It had a problem that every fast-growing technology company of that era had. It needed to assemble chips at scale without paying American labor costs to do it. The solution the industry had discovered was offshore assembly. Find a location with a skilled, educated, low-cost workforce, build a facility, and ship the components there for assembly and testing before shipping the finished chips back. Intel looked at the options. And it chose Penang. $1.6 million. A facility on an island off the northwest coast of Malaysia that at the time was better known for fishing and spice trading than for semiconductor manufacturing. A workforce that Intel's engineers described as diligent, educated, and fast to learn. And a Malaysian government that wanted exactly what Intel was offering: industrial investment, employment, and the beginning of a manufacturing export economy that could diversify the country away from its dependence on rubber and tin. What followed that $1.6 million decision was not random. It was compounding. Intel brought supply chain infrastructure to Penang. Supply chain infrastructure attracted Motorola. Motorola attracted AMD. Each arrival made Penang more attractive for the next because each one trained engineers who became the workforce for the company that followed. Each one built supplier relationships that reduced costs for the company that came after. Each one demonstrated to the global semiconductor industry that Malaysia, and Penang specifically, was a location that understood what this industry needed and could deliver it consistently. By the time the world's attention shifted to China as the dominant low-cost manufacturing destination in the 1990s and 2000s, Malaysia had something China could not easily replicate. 30 years of accumulated institutional knowledge in semiconductor assembly and testing. A regulatory environment that had been managing the specific requirements of high-technology manufacturing for 3 decades. An engineering workforce that was not just cheap but genuinely capable. And a government that had made semiconductor manufacturing a national priority and had the policy continuity to back that priority across multiple administrations. E&E exports climbed to RM711 billion in 2025 after hitting RM601 billion the year before. RM601 billion to RM711 billion to a projected RM800 billion plus. That is not a spike. It is an acceleration of a trajectory that has been building for 54 years and that 2 specific forces are now turbocharging simultaneously. The first force is the US-China technology war. Washington's semiconductor export controls, restricting advanced chips and manufacturing equipment from reaching Chinese companies, created an immediate and serious problem for global technology companies caught between American regulators and Chinese supply chains. Those companies needed a manufacturing base that both governments could tolerate. Malaysia's political neutrality, its consistent ability to serve both American and Chinese clients without triggering sanctions or reputational risk, made it the most rational destination for the supply chain restructuring the tech war forced. The Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association president described the current environment as a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Malaysia, highlighting its ability to serve both US and China markets amid geopolitical tensions. The second force is artificial intelligence. Every AI model trained. Every data center running inference workloads. Every autonomous vehicle making a real-time decision. All of it runs on chips. Not just any chips. increasingly on the most advanced packaging configurations, the most sophisticated power semiconductors, the highest density memory architectures available. The AI boom did not create Malaysia's semiconductor industry. It created a demand surge so large and so sudden that the industry needed every capable production location it could find. Malaysia had been building a capable production location since 1972. When the demand surge arrived, Malaysia was ready in a way that no other country in Southeast Asia was. The E&E sector increased exports by 39.7% to RM382.9 billion in the first 5 months of 2026, contributing 48.2% of the country's total exports. Nearly half of everything Malaysia sells to the world comes from a single industry. An industry built on a $1.6 million decision made 54 years ago. Let me make the current investment picture concrete because the numbers in isolation do not capture what is actually happening on the ground. Intel has committed more than $7 billion to Penang, including an advanced three-dimensional semiconductor packaging facility. Not assembly, not testing, manufacturing. And crucially, Intel has put design capability in Malaysia, not just factories. The Intel Chief Global Operations Officer said on the record that Malaysia is where Intel does manufacturing, assembly, testing, and design. The highest value activity in the semiconductor chain is now happening in Penang. Infineon Technologies is spending €5 billion to build the world's largest 200mm silicon carbide power fabrication plant in Kulim, Kedah. Silicon carbide chips power electric vehicles and renewable energy systems. As the world electrifies, Infineon's Kulim plant becomes one of the most strategically important manufacturing facilities in Southeast Asia. AT&S, the Austrian IC substrate manufacturer, committed between €1.5 and €2 billion to expand in Kulim following agreements with AMD and another leading US technology company. The AT&S CEO said he expects at least 5 leading American technology clients at the Kulim facility. 5 American technology companies. In Kedah, Malaysia. Malaysia is continuing its strategic partnership with global chip design company ARM to accelerate the development of the local semiconductor industry. ARM's chip architecture powers virtually every smartphone on Earth. A Malaysian partnership with ARM for local chip design development is the signal that Malaysia is not content to remain at the assembly and testing tier of the value chain. The country is moving toward the layer where the intellectual property lives. Here is what the RM382 billion headline does not tell you. And it needs to be said because intellectual honesty is what separates analysis from cheerleading. The semiconductor sector should no longer function as a mere production center. Instead, the industry needs to shift to high-value activities such as innovation, technology development, increased productivity, and the production of highly skilled talent. Those words came from Malaysia's own economy minister at an E&E symposium on July 13, 2026. A minister citing his own industry's export record and then immediately saying it needs to do more. That is not false modesty. That is the honest recognition of where the gap is. Malaysia packages, tests, and assembles chips that were designed elsewhere on equipment manufactured elsewhere, running software developed elsewhere, producing products sold under brand names headquartered elsewhere. The value chain of a semiconductor that passes through a Malaysian factory captures a specific slice of the total value. The much larger slices, chip design, system integration, software, and brand, accrue to the companies whose intellectual property drives the product. Semiconductors account for about 65% of Malaysia's E&E exports. Malaysia controls approximately 13% of the world's chip packaging, assembly, and testing capacity. Penang needs 50,000 more engineers than it currently has. 15% of semiconductor talent leaves Malaysia annually for higher salaries in Singapore, Taiwan, and the United States. The brain drain rate is a structural constraint on Malaysia's ability to move up the value chain even as the volume numbers set records. The ARM partnership. The Intel design presence. The AI Nation 2030 plan targeting Malaysia among the world's top 10 in the global AI index by 2030. These are the opening moves in a race that will take this entire decade to complete. The RM382 billion is the foundation. The question this decade answers is whether Malaysia builds the next layer on top of it. In 1972, Intel invested $1.6 million in Penang. That decision started a compounding process that 54 years later produced RM382.9 billion in exports in 5 months. A 39.7% increase in a single year. Nearly half of everything Malaysia sells to the world. On track for RM800 billion for the full year. Nearly $200 billion. E&E exports climbed to RM711 billion in 2025 after hitting RM601 billion the year before, and the trajectory is not slowing. It is accelerating. Driven by a trade war that Malaysia did not start and an AI boom that Malaysia did not create but that both landed in a country that had been quietly building the infrastructure to receive them for 54 years. The industry nobody expected to drive Malaysia's export surge is not oil. Not palm oil. Not tourism. It is the chips that run artificial intelligence. The chips that power your phone. The chips inside every electric vehicle, every data center, every satellite. And a significant share of the world's supply of those chips gets packaged, tested, assembled, and shipped from an island in Penang where a quiet decision was made in 1972. $1.6 million then. RM382 billion in 5 months now. That is what 54 years of compounding looks like. I want to hear from you. Are you working in Malaysia's semiconductor industry right now? An engineer in Penang? A supply chain professional in Kulim? Someone inside this story who knows what the expansion looks like from the ground? Drop your role and your read in the comments. One sentence. And the big question, does Malaysia move from semiconductor assembly to chip design in this decade? Yes or no? Subscribe right now because Shifted Perspective is tracking every chapter of this story. I will see you in the next one.